What is going on, everybody? Welcome to Heat and Soul Podcast. Today we will be discussing on this episode gang violence. I have a very special person I hold near and dear to me. He's on this episode. He talks about what he's been through. I mean, it's just a whole story. You guys are going to have to watch the whole thing. It's very inspiring to see somebody come out this victorious and on top as he has become lately. Sylvestre Calderon is a very special person to me. I've known him for years, so we just want people to know that we are here, and we still pray for people that are in gangs. And if you guys are struggling with something, that we will always be there. You can always hit us up. We are always open to be able to talk about that. So, Heat and Soul Podcast. Stay tuned for more. Thank you guys, and make sure to watch this whole episode because it is a great episode to watch. What's up, and welcome back to Heat and Soul Podcast. This is episode 4. Before we start the podcast, I'd like to pray over the podcast, something we do before every podcast. So let's just go ahead and do that now. Lord God, Father, we pray for all the persecuted Christians around the world. Thank you for giving us this opportunity to be able to do a podcast and being able to share with people around the world different stories and different things that we have to say. We pray for Sylvestre's family and Kenny's family who are here with me today. And let us strive for greatness with the podcast. In your name we pray. Amen. So right now, on my right, he's our special guest today. We have Silvestre Calderon, correct?
Yes, sir. Sylvester Calderon here.
Correct. And then we have Kenny on my left. So let's start this off. So we are talking about gang violence and gangs today, and we actually have somebody who was in a gang, correct?
Yes, sir.
Yes, you were. So let's start it off with, where is your family from?
My family is originally from Michoacan, Mexico. I'm originally from Chicago, Illinois. I was raised in Mexico until I was 9, and from 9, I went to Chicago. From Chicago, I came here to Indy, and this is where I joined the gang.
All right. So you lived in Mexico, since you was 9, right? So, how was that transaction from Mexico to Chicago? You know what I mean?
It was a culture shock because we were really kind of like in a farm area, and we moved from a farm area to a city.
Yeah.
And it was shocking to see the culture change.
That's
a
big difference because people in Chicago, I guarantee you, it's not the same type of, because the food's different. I mean, everything changes. It's a whole family dynamic pretty much.
Yeah, and so I had to basically adapt to this whole new culture that I was moved into. And from there, we moved here. I really didn't get in trouble or into gangs until I moved to Indiana.
Really?
When I got to Indiana, that's when I joined a gang because I felt like I was losing my culture.
Really?
I felt like I was being Americanized, and I felt like the gang was going to bring me back to that.
So you felt like it would bring you back to
my culture.
Yeah. So you feel, is it that you didn't feel normal?
I felt like I was straying away. Like my culture wasn't accepting me because I was being Americanized.
Okay.
That's
so
tough.
I mean, that'd be very difficult to go through, most definitely. So you felt pressure?
I wouldn't call it pressure. I just would call it me trying to get to understand trying to get to supposedly understand or get closer to my culture when it wasn't that. It was just a thought that I had in my mentality.
Kind of basically trying to find yourself at some point, you know what I mean? That makes sense. How long was you in Chicago then?
We was in Chicago like 5 years.
And what gang were you in?
I'm in Ex-Sur13. Or was in Ex-Sur13.
So what kind of things did you guys do, if you don't mind me asking? Like, what was your main thing?
We basically just ran around neighborhoods, supposedly looking for rivals and tagging up areas that we so-called belonged to us.
Right.
So so I see where you're going with that. So what is a big thing in gangs? Like how many, okay, let's say how many people are in a gang?
It's well, when I was coming up, the main thing that I seen a lot of like subsets, because you got the main gang and then you got the subsets.
Right.
And subsets are like neighborhoods and like cliques.
Okay.
And you had some subsets that recruited a lot of people in order to intimidate and to seem more powerful.
So it's for intimidation, to look powerful or to.
Yeah,
Okay.
like a status.
Okay.
Basically. Yeah.
So that was your main thing. So statistics, a lot of. So statistically, what was like the population of your like gang? Like, were they white? Were they black? Were they Hispanic?
It was mainly Mexicans,
Okay.
and yeah, it's just mainly Mexicans.
So what do you?
That's what basically drew me to the gang, because I was like, oh, ain't nothing but Mexicans.
So it's your people. It's your people.
Yeah.
And so you felt? Did you feel apart? You said you felt apart from your culture.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
is that feeling apart from your people as well?
Yeah, because I felt like I didn't spend enough time with them, or I felt like I was, like, when I was around them, I felt like I was out of place.
Okay.
And I felt like I needed to get closer to them or find a way to get closer to them so that they could accept me.
So, in some of our research we've done, data shows that 41.6% of gangs are from large cities. So, was your gang were you guys around the Indianapolis area?
Our gang was originally founded in California.
Okay, California, okay.
And I guess people from California came over here and started, and you know how big cities are. Somebody from a big city comes here to a small city, and it's like, oh, man, you're so cool. Like, man, you talk different, and you're wild and all of that. Yeah. And, yeah, that's what basically drew a lot of people to them, because it's like this person that was different than them.
Was it are gangs here different than in Mexico?
Yeah.
They are?
Yeah, way different.
Really?
Different, yeah.
So, just to ask you, I want to start back from the beginning, basically, like schooling, growing up as a young child, parents. Like, you had both of your parents. You had your mother and your father.
Yes,
so,
sir, I did.
what type of pressure, what type of traditional things they withheld you as growing up as a kid? You know what I mean?
My parents have always installed in me to work, that in order to be successful in this life, or in order to live a comfortable life, you've got to work.
Right.
You've got to do the right thing. It was just me as a kid, I chose something different.
I mean, that definitely makes sense, because it's just like, I mean, as a young kid, you're growing up, you're trying to find your way, especially moving from Mexico to Chicago. That's a huge difference. Like, that's
As you said,
different.
it's a huge culture change.
It's something
Yeah.
that,
Because you're seeing something completely different. Not to mean to cut you off,
you're good.
but you're seeing like a different types of people and different ways that people are acting. And you're not with your people.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So you are not as comfortable, say, as you would be if you were with your people. Correct? Is that correct, or
That's correct.
that is correct? So, what is a common misconception about a gang? Like, do you have a common misconception that you think people might take?
Basically, that in order to become a gang member, you got to go out and kill somebody.
right.
That's fake. You could either, some people are joined in by bloodlines, or some people are either just get jumped. You don't necessarily got to kill nobody.
Yeah, facts.
So you said you were trying to like find your identity, trying to figure out what what you wanted to, you wanted to kind of find your identity, find some loving, basically somewhat. What were like, since you knew growing up, you had your father and your mother, and you say, all I knew was to work hard and to stay dedicated. When you joined your gang, was it just simply because you wanted to find some sort of, connection, some sort of root, to yourself? And then on top of that, when you were in your gang, did you think like, oh man, I'm not in there to kill someone. I'm not in there to, do whatever you know?
Well, when I first joined, it was like, now that I've grown from that person into the person I am now, from what I took and understand now is that I was just trying to cover up my insecurities, trying to find a way to make myself secure about who I was growing up to be.
Right, facts.
Do you have any stories of, let's say, early, so let's say the first, how long were you in a gang for?
I joined the gang when I was 13. I was in it till I was like 26.
So do you have any stories from your early years? Not anything but just like a story about maybe something that went down or something like that? You don't have to go into detail.
Yeah. We used to, when I was like 17, we used to go like party hopping.
Right, yeah.
And me, with the mentality I had, I was so big-headed in myself that I was like, man, I'm this big, tough guy. I got these guys with me. We're going to mess everything up that runs across us. So we go to this party, right? And I don't know, for some reason, somebody had picked a fight with somebody in the crowd. That person had came, and for some reason, I always thought myself as the protector of everybody that was with me. And
did you feel entitled to that position?
Yeah.
Be like the protector?
Yeah.
The
I felt like I was the enforcer.
So the enforcer. So you were like the, what was his name? Antonio Davis of the Pacers.
Yeah.
You're like the guy that, like beating anybody up. Yeah, I see where you're going with that.
Yeah, so the guy was picking a fight with my friend, so I decided to get up. The guy didn't think twice about punching me. So he punched me, and next thing you know, we're outside. We got jumped. There was only 5 of us. So we got beat up, dude. I'm talking about knotted up, everything. So I was so messed up. I got up, and thinking the big-headed self that I was back then, I got back up, and I was like, oh, y'all want to fight? Y'all want to fight again? So I took off my shirt. I ripped off my shirt like I was the Hawk, like I was going to mess somebody up. And I turn around and I look at all my friends, and I'm like, man, they're all beat up, knotted up, and they're like, no, dude, we don't want to go fight again. They're like, no, we don't want to go fight again. So I'm like, yeah, man. So that was a funny story, that basically a life lesson learned, that I wasn't this invincible man that I had in my head, that I could be touched.
So you got so high on yourself, like, oh yeah, I can't be messed with, this and that.
Yeah, because sometimes I misunderstood things, that like, sometimes when people look away or when people avoid you, it's not because they're scared of you. It's because they're trying to avoid the stupidness that's about to happen, which I tend to do now as a grown-up. I'm like, man, I got to avoid this, because if I don't avoid it, it's going to escalate to something else.
Yeah,
so
because you definitely know who you are as an individual.
Yeah.
Because you found yourself. Back then, you were trying to find out, like, who you are, like. So you found yourself, and now you're trying to you've moved yourself away from it.
Yeah,
So,
I sure did. Yep.
I mean,
so just to jump all the way back, you're from Mexico to Chicago and all that. You say you wanted to join your gang because you wanted to find yourself and figure out what type of who you were as a person. And like you said culture, basically. You said I was just trying to find myself, try to be back cultural intact. Because you got to think, you left Mexico, like you say, you didn't want to, right? Your parents was willing to move and leave Mexico, and you did what you did. What makes you love your culture so much? Why were you dying to just gravitate back towards it? You know what I mean? Like what made you, you know what I mean, go out the way such as much to join a gang for your culture and for what you wanted to do and love and all that?
The unity that I saw amongst them, which basically was a unity amongst all human beings. It's not just a culture thing, and now I understand that.
Right,
but
yeah.
It was me just looking at them and being like, oh man, why can I be that close to them, or why can I talk and clown around with them like that? What can I do? So I thought that would get me close to it.
Now, why did you think that you didn't have that? You know what I mean?
Being a kid and being insecure in myself, and trying to find everybody to accept me, not knowing that people are not gonna like you most of the times. Man.
Act in a certain way,
So yeah.
I have a question. When does loyalty cut off? Or are some people loyal to the bone, or some, does loyalty cut off sometimes?
There are some people that are loyal. It's just that in a gang, you're gonna run across a lot of disloyalty.
Right. I can only imagine that. That's a big trust issue. Day by day, you know, all the stuff that you gotta do.
Does it come when court hits?
Yeah, it comes when courts and basically when
You're being...
the hot water, you're put in hot water.
Yeah.
And
because
nobody
people,
could take the heat, and it's like, yeah, you know what? It's easier for me to say he did it, or
because I get less time or something like that.
Exactly.
So, what's the difference? Give us an example of jail and an example of prison. What are the differences?
Before asking that though, sorry for cutting you off.
Oh, you're cool.
When did you start getting in trouble? When did you start? When did you?
That's a
get
good question. That's a
introduced
good question.
To the system as what you know what I mean.
I first got introduced to the system when I was 13.
Oh, that's young, man.
And
That's really young, yeah.
That's really young.
it was for stealing a pair of shoes.
For real?
Yeah.
What shoes did you steal?
Was you
Some
in your gang
Nikes, I don't even remember.
Yeah. Were you in your gang at the time? Were you still?
Not at that moment. Not at the moment. I was still like running wild.
Right.
So you're kind of still trying to
your
like
thing, doing
doing
your
your
own
little
thing.
thing. Yeah.
Okay.
So, going back to that, actually, let's before we go back to the difference between jail and prison, when did you first have your first court case?
My first actual real serious court case was when I was 14.
Okay.
And that involved some guns.
Okay. All right. We won't get into detail.
Yeah. No, I've actually, that case is resolved. I've actually did the time for that case.
Oh, okay. So you did the time?
Mm-hmm.
So did you learn from it?
Yeah.
But there were still a couple stumbles upon...
Yeah, because, I mean, like I see it, it's hard to change a creature of habit, something that does something repetitive for so many years. You got to give it its time to
And that's what you...
change.
But you've learned from that. You've learned
Yes,
from that, and you're
yes.
he's a changed man now, trust me. I've known Sylvester for many years now, and he's changed his life. So, I mean, how long have I known you? What, about 5 years?
About going on 5 years.
So, I mean, most definitely. I mean, I've seen you some rough, but I've seen you at your highest moments too.
Yeah.
So, I mean, he's looking good now. I mean, aren't you? Look at him.
Sir. Yes,
He's
sir.
fly. So, in a couple minutes here, and probably about 15 minutes, we'll have a halftime heat check.
Yes.
So we'll be able to see what he's got on the feet and what you got on the feet, and what I got on the feet. So we'll have a couple shout outs then as well. But going back to the talk, let's go to what is it like in jail? What is jail like? Is the food? Let's go. The cells, the food, the yard, or what do they call it? What do they call it to you?
Well, my first time in jail was, it was very shocking because I was always so close to going home and going to sleep there and waking up and doing whatever you want. And once they take that away from you, you're like, man, this sucks. Like,
Yeah, you're an animal.
And then you realize that people would actually really hurt you in there.
Yeah.
And that they're not gonna come in there and just ground you or spank you or anything. And that was the big difference. And
So
the big
that was like that hit you.
yeah.
That hit you. It's like a punch to the face, almost.
Yeah.
Literally.
Yeah, as well as losing family members, like and not being able to go to their funerals.
Right. Yeah.
So that you know what? I've never thought about that. That would be difficult. That would be very difficult because you would lose people that you haven't talked. You know what I mean? You haven't talked to.
Yeah.
So that I've never actually. That's a very interesting. I've never thought about that. Going in there and being like, man, he passed away, and I didn't get to say what I wanted to say as my last words. That's I've never thought. That is a different perspective. That is a different perspective.
I think not being able to ask for help, being thrown in a situation like not being in your comfort zone is probably one of the most intimidating things about jail.
Yes.
You can't call for nobody. You literally you're locked away. Like I think that's probably the most scariest things about being locked up, prison, jail, whatever. You cannot call for help. You get a call whenever you get it.
You said you were young.
You don't get it's just terrible. So what type of lessons, what type of adjustments have you learned throughout those processes of going in, getting out?
What I learned is that while going through that process of being in and out the system, you can't have feelings.
Mm-hmm.
And
So
you
what
can't.
do you mean by that? What do you mean by
as in, like, when you go in there, you show feelings as a sign of weakness.
Right, yeah.
And like sometimes I felt bad for people. Like, let's say somebody was getting beat up, or somebody was getting dragged into a room to get beat up, and they're yelling for help, and nobody's helping. Everybody's just watching.
Because if you were to help, would you?
You would. The same thing would happen.
Yeah,
Really?
yeah,
The same thing would happen.
Are there cliques that are in jail sometimes, or prison?
Yeah, there's gangs.
Really?
There's gangs. Everything's gang controlled in there.
Right. Yeah, so back to the original, what you mean by you gotta be, cold-hearted basically in there, you can't show no feelings, you gotta be...
In normal situations, like, let's say out here you see somebody getting hurt or somebody getting jumped on, or usually people out here would step in and try to help.
Mm-hmm.
And there people just sat and watched.
Right. And that's actually a good, so when, as your times you're going into jail and doing all of that, and you definitely had to have some experiences when you weren't in the gang while you're in jail. What were the differences of going into jail and then being locked up with a gang, knowing that you got that loyalty or trust or whatever in there with you? What's the difference between those two?
The difference before and after was before you were in there by yourself.
Right, yeah.
And the difference, which is the bad part to me about it, is when you're in the gang, all right, you got the backup as soon as you get there. But the thing is, you're at the bottom of the totem pole. So whenever something hits the fan, you're the one that's got to go take care of it.
Right.
And yeah, that's the sucky part about it.
So do you feel like you hold way more responsibility
earlier
in a gang than not in a gang, basically? So like there's way more responsibility, way more stuff going on that you have to, loyalty, going to go get somebody, being at the rankings. Did it end up being more pressure at the end of the day?
As you said, there's a totem pole as well.
Yeah, it was more pressure because you got to follow rules. You got to pay taxes, and you got to stay in line, basically.
Right. You got to answer to somebody, basically.
Yeah.
How did your parents feel about this? About joining and going to jail?
They were very disappointed because that's not why we came from Mexico to the U.S. for. They wanted us to have a better life and to become something instead of
joining.
Instead of doing what we were doing at the moment.
Because it wasn't. I mean, did you have any family members that were in it with you at all?
Yeah, I got cousins. My brother's in it, and I got some cousins in California
that were in it.
Yeah.
So basically, your initiation was basically like family ties, basically.
No. My cousins, they joined before me, and then they came over here, and I was already in it. I had already jumped into the gang. So
what does jumped in mean?
It's basically when they get a group of people and they jump you in for like a set amount of seconds, and they just beat you up real bad. It's just kind of dumb.
So it's kind of
it's
kind of like welcome to the party.
Yeah, like welcome to the party here. Here's some knots and a bloody lip. So yeah.
That's funny.
So what did you mean by taxes? Like taxes? You pay taxes? You say in jail? Is that what you said?
In jail, like in jail and out here. Out here, if you were running in a gang, you basically like your taxes go into like. You could say they could go into buying whatever the gang needs.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. Makes sense.
So basically, you say your parents didn't exactly they didn't enjoy you joining your gang. How did they feel about your cousins and them joining? So like,
or did they know? Did they know?
My parents knew after a while, after I started getting into trouble more. My cousins, they had to come down from where they were at, and they found out, and they didn't find that too appealing.
Right. Yeah. Okay. That's what I wanted to know. I was wondering, like, did they just coincidentally come down here? Like, they were in a gang before out there.
Yeah.
And y'all just happened to be in the same gang.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, that's crazy. Wow. That's crazy.
That's deep. That's deep.
So you have tattoos?
Yes. I
Do a lot of your tattoos have meanings?
I got these in prison, as a matter of fact.
How do they give prison tattoos? Like a needle?
Crazy story.
Here's a story. Here's a story for you.
All right, so I didn't know, like, I didn't know how they were making the ink. I thought they were bringing it in because they bring everything in. They bring drugs, cell phones.
Anything you want. Anything, basically.
Yeah, money buys anything.
Yeah, facts.
And so when I was getting my tattoos done, I was watching the process of the ink being made. And funny story, I can't believe I did this now that I think about it. But the ink is sud from plastic razors that they burned.
Wow.
And they mix it with saline and I think oil or something, and it comes out looking like this.
Oh, so it's more, what's the word I want to use? It's more, what's the word? Faded. It's faded.
Yeah.
Because it looks faded.
Yeah.
That's faded, because this one's not as faded.
Yeah. No, this one's from the streets. This one's street ink. This one's gel ink.
So you can definitely tell the difference.
So you say they burn it off razor. What did you say again? You burn.
And they get the sud. They make a box. They put the razor stacked up, and they put like a piece of paper or something on top of it. And all that black smoke and sud that comes up, they scrape off, and then they mix it.
Mix it with xylene and make it like a.
Yeah, like an ink.
Dang.
Yeah.
So what do you got any questions?
I was about to ask, how did you get a tattoo in there? What did it cost? Was it gang related?
They were free.
Wow.
For real? So people just give free.
It was not necessarily. It's just the gang that I was associated with.
They was like, man, you trying to get tatted? Let me do some artwork on you. And
yeah, they had a position of power at the moment.
Did they have certain like gang tattoos you would get ever? Like, do you ever have any certain gang tattoos that they gave you? Like,
yeah.
So I mean that's different. I mean, because
having
that, you had that on your body for what, the rest of your life almost. I mean, unless you get it removed, which I don't know if that's it. I don't know if that kind of that'll come out of your skin.
I mean, it's removable, but I wouldn't do it because it's a reminder of where I've come from and how far I've come.
Technical difficulty issues. I apologize. It is 97 degrees here in Indy, and our camera got very hot, and sometimes when cameras get hot, they overheat. But right now, we're actually going to hop into the halftime heat check. It was kind of like a perfect cutoff almost for us. So, what do you got on, man? What are you wearing?
Bands as usual.
That's it. That's as usual. What do you got on?
Some Forces.
I like those. Those are clean. You got the baby blue in there.
Yes, sir.
I got some lows, some Jordan 1 lows on. Just a clean colorway that can go with a lot of stuff. So, also I'd like to give a shout out to IRC Music. They're out of Avon, Indiana. They do a lot of music stuff. Shout out Chris, the owner. He's helped us with a lot of our equipment. I mean, you see our mics, our stands, even stuff like plugs for our mixer, our mixing board, everything. So he has helped us out with a ton of things. So I'd like to give a shout out to you guys. Go check them out. Are they off of, I think they're off of Rockville Road. They're near the Target. So go check them out. They have a ton of cool stuff in there if you're into music. And then also, Heat and Soul Podcast shirts. I just got actually my first text. I actually sold my first one today.
Congratulations.
But these are Heat and Soul Podcast shirts. The back, and then let me stand up. I'll stand up real quick for this one. Ooh, just a second. I gotta get my shoe. So we have the back here. It has our Instagram and everything else on it. So these are our shirts. So go follow Heat and Soul Podcast on YouTube at Heat and Soul Podcast. Go follow us on Instagram at Heat and Soul Podcast. And then go follow us on TikTok at Heat and Soul Podcast too. Twitter is Heat and Soul Cast because Elon Musk won't allow 3 more characters. So thank you, Elon. Please fix that if you're watching this. If not, I bet you aren't. Maybe in a couple of years though. So go DM Heat and Soul Podcast. We will have a website in a couple of weeks to where you can just click and order our merchandise. It will come in different colors eventually, so we just won't have the white. We'll have black. We'll have other colors that our Heat and Soul Podcast shirts will come in. We'll have hats, socks. Eventually, one of our goals is to have sweats and shorts. So those are a couple goals of ours. But go check us out on Instagram and go cop some of our merch. So getting back into it, what was a life lesson you learned from being in the system or being in jail?
Basically, the things I've learned while going through that was that I can't throw a fit over things I can't control, because that was my main thing, trying to control situations that were basically...
They were out of your...
Yeah, and I tried to control it in my way, and it didn't work out, and it ended up me being arrested, so, yeah.
And was it truly because, like, was your way just always negative? Like, what, would you just say you was always a hothead, basically?
Yeah, I was
situations or anything?
Yeah, I couldn't take, basically authority figures.
So criticism from other people.
And criticism, authority figures, like, basically they were like a threat to me, and I felt like I needed to either let it know where it stands, or that I'm higher than it was, or more stronger, or whatever. I don't
show
know
that you were overpowering everybody, and you were over everybody.
Yeah,
That's what you wanted to
trying
show.
to overpower everything,
Okay.
that I was basically not in control of.
Okay, makes sense. I think, like, sometimes even like me, I want to be the one, like, who says this and that, like, but at the end of the day, I can't. Like, I'd like to be in control, not in like what you're talking about, like just in certain situations. Like, I like to be in control, even though I know sometimes I can't. So I can feel where you're coming from with that, in a way, not in a way that you're talking, but in a sense of just wanting to be in control of certain situations.
Yeah.
Yeah, going through, dealing with the situations you're dealing with, you know what I mean, having to be a hothead, you know, going back into jail all the time, you know, getting locked up throughout the time. How much time do you think you've actually put into the system? How much time do you think you've been served throughout your whole lifetime? Yeah.
Altogether, I say around like 8 years.
8 years, that's a lot of time.
8 years from age 13 to like 27.
So you were really only out 5 years, right?
Yeah.
About 5 years.
Somewhere around there.
So you spent over half the time, well, a good chunk of the time in jail or prison, right?
Yeah. My teenage years, I basically grew up in the system, and I had to control and deal with my emotions as a teenager in the system.
Was that juvie?
Yeah, juvenile. I went to juvenile, and I went to the adult system as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is juvenile, is it worse can it be worse at moments than jail?
Not really, because some of the adults act like kids, so it's kind of a funny situation, because you see these older men, some that are probably twice as old as me, acting like kids, or worse than a 16-year-old, and throwing fits.
Can you give us a funny story? Okay, so let's get 3 funny stories here. Can we have one from juvie?
Yeah.
One from jail. And were you in prison?
Yeah.
Can we have one from prison?
Well, my funny story in juvenile was, I was 14. I had went to Logansport, Indiana, and I went to the boys' school there. And it was my second time going around to boys' school, and so I thought it was funny at the moment, because the guards used to go around like, oh, you shave. And the first time that I went there, they just told me, nah, you could go to your cell. So the second time I was like, man, I got a little older. I got a little
got a little
peach
facial
fuzz.
hair.
So I was pretty happy when they was like, you go shave.
Been a lot.
So I was so happy about that situation. So I went in the bathroom and I shaved. And I'm like, yeah, I'm a grown man. I'm growing up. And I come out the restroom all cut up, dude, because it was my first time ever using a razor. So I cut myself up. I'm bleeding all over the place, dude. And I'm like, man, that sucked.
Really?
Yeah.
Man, that would be tough because I think, actually, funny story, like when I was younger, I think I tried to use one of my dad's razors on my face. I have no clue why. It was just like laying there. And I remember cutting myself like right here, and I was like, I remember that. I don't know if he remembers that. It was when we lived at our first. It was when we lived at our first. It was our first house that we lived in, and it was laying on the counter. I was like, and I just took it straight to my face. I didn't even apply water or anything like that, just straight up. And I think I cut my face like right here. So I don't know if he remembers that. I mean, he's behind the camera. Dad, do you remember that?
I did.
You remember that?
Yeah.
See, he does. He remembers it. So. That is a pretty funny story. I mean, so what's a funny story you have from jail? Or not funny, but it can be serious. It can be. Just give us a story.
Funny story was, I was in Marion County 1 downtown.
Okay.
And some people's addictions are really bad, and I believe that some people need better coping mechanisms to cope with their addictions, because it was so bad that, to the point that people needed cigarettes so bad that they started drying up orange peels. They were smoking coffee. They were smoking spinach. Dude, it was that bad. And I thought that was pretty hilarious. I was like, oh my God, this is hilarious, because I've never seen nobody smoke an orange peel. And that's amazing.
Like, out of all things, that's what you should. What were they, just lighting it straight up?
Yeah, they would set it on the windowsill and let it dry. And I guess just out of desperation or just trying to get high or a buzz, people just decided to try many different things, dude, like snorting coffee and all that, dude. I thought that was hilarious, dude. I mean,
and like you said, you didn't really like how, people are coping with their thing. What do you think they should do? What do you think should change due to that situation? You got people in there, they got real bad addictions, and then they get thrown into a cell where, you know what I mean, that addiction weighs heavy on them. What do you think? What do you think some things that could help?
I would think that we need to be more compassionate towards each other, because I believe that everybody's so into just worried about themselves, like only me, instead of just taking the time and helping somebody that's down. And maybe it'll work, maybe it might not, but you don't know until you try it.
Right. And like throughout those times you're in jail, is there any instances where you had to help somebody out that needed help, and it had nothing to do with no gang, just mentally, they could be mentally messed up in there or addictive to anybody you didn't have to help and like, stand straight, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I could say a couple times, like younger kids that some kids are like not mentally there sometimes, or maybe they're just too young and naive to see things for what they really are.
Do you sometimes see some of them in you as you're in there?
Yeah.
So it's way more understanding.
Yeah, because I wish somebody would have came to me and told me like, hey man, it's okay, man. Like
you don't need to do that. Right?
Yeah, you don't need to do that, or you don't need to feel like this, because like every time I went to jail, dude. Even though I'm gang affiliated or none of that, I know my gang's in there. Yeah. But you always have that fear of the unknown.
Right, yeah.
That fear of the unknown, and you're like, man, what if I go in here and they jump on me, or they do something, or they just don't like me, or what if it's somebody that I know from the past?
Right.
And
so you had that fear. There were sometimes like fears.
Yeah.
The unknown, like what you said, the unknown, like you're walking into a situation that you're not too sure about, and like let's say for instance, let's take this for instance. I don't know if this ever happened to you, but let's just say there was like a clique or something. What do you call it? Like the cliques of the gang. Let's say there's a clique or a gang, and you don't end up with any of your gang, but that gang has. Let's say you guys were like rivals, right? That's what you say, right? What happens when you walk into jail with a clique that's got all their guys there.
Oh, it's happened before. It's happened when I went to prison, and my gang had recently gotten into altercation with a black gang over a cell phone. And I guess they tried to take somebody's cell phone. The gangs got into it, and next thing you know, it's this big old gang war. So So I get to the compound, and once you get to the compound, they got an orientation unit, which is basically for all the new prison arrivals.
Okay.
And then from there, you're there for like about a week or two until they classify you into a dorm or wherever you're going. So for some reason, they always put me in the dorms that were the most rowdiest. Like I don't know if it was because of my age or my charges or whatever, but basically they sent me to the Lions Den, dude. So they're like, man, they're like, you're a 13, you're going to there, man. Like, man, they just got into a fight. Your homeboys just got into a fight. So everybody's out preparing me, and I'm like, man, I'm about to get effed up. Like, man, as soon as I walk in here and they see my tattoos, they're gonna mess me up. So So for like about like 3 days, dude, like when I was going into the shower, I was being real careful, like making sure I didn't show my tattoos, but it's kind of impossible to not do that. So
when did you really start to get tattoos? Like what age?
I was like 14.
For real?
Yeah, like 14.
That's young. That's how old I am.
Yeah.
I'm 14, so I couldn't imagine that.
Yeah, I was like 14 because a lot of my friends were getting tattoos. Some of these right here, the real dark ones, the ones that have the dark ink, were some of the ones I got when I was younger.
Really?
Yeah.
So when did you get that one? The one we were talking about earlier.
This one I got in prison. I got in 2013, along with 2 more right here and one on my head.
Really?
What's probably your most painful tattoo?
The one on my head.
And that's simply.
Where is it? Is it on the?
Yeah, it's some letters. It's from here to like right here.
And it go across like that.
Yeah. Woo. Yeah, that hurt, dude.
That hurt.
Dude, imagine like just being in the cell and then having to stop every time you heard keys and like, man, your head's like.
What is it? What is the tattoo?
It says Puro Sureño. It's basically my gang. Like.
Really?
Yeah.
Has it faded at all?
No.
So you grow your hair out just to.
And was that more of you? Was that more you taking initiative on putting that tattoo in your head, or was it more of like, man, we got it?
No, it was
intense. Like,
it was actually somebody that was fascinated with my gang. The tattoo artist was fascinated with my gang.
Oh,
and he actually wanted to put it on my chest.
Right.
But I was like, nah, I have other plans. Can you just put that on my head?
So why'd you choose your head?
Because I could grow my hair out.
True, we cover it. Now we don't know. We really don't know.
Yeah, I can't even see it.
Yeah.
I can't see that. So, do you have any special meanings? Like, are there a couple, like, you said your gang, but do you have any other special meaning tattoos on you?
Not really. All my tattoos are about gangs, so it's like, they don't have no special meaning. It was just the heat of the moment.
So it was like, okay, it was like not stupid to say. But do you look back on it and be like, but you said at first they're reminders of your past and how you've grown as a person. So you don't regret getting them. Are there some things you regret but other things you don't regret?
The things I regret is going to jail and losing so much time of my teenage years and
your early years.
Because those are early development years.
Yeah,
you develop as a person, and you had to find it out the hard way.
Because when I got out, I seen all my friends, and they were like these different people that I didn't know, and I tried to understand.
Right.
And here I was with the same mentality that I had went in there with, like, oh man, and basically I stayed stuck.
And so that's crazy. So, you deal with getting out, and I'm pretty sure every time you get out, your plan is not to go back in, right? So, your last time getting out, and I know it's difficult. You got to deal with court dates. You got to deal with coming back and forth and dealing with, POs and all that. What type of situation, how hard is that having to deal with doing time, getting out, and still having to deal with those parameters of like being pretty much still kind of locked up, house arrest, people calling you all the time, certain rules. How do you feel about that? Do that keep you straight, or do that kind of disturb anything that goes on with what you want to do after you get out? Because once you get out, you want that to be behind you. You want that to kind of be in the past. So, what do that frustrate you more, or do that just keep you kind of straight lined? All the stuff that you have to deal with once you get out.
It's frustrating because it's like it adds pressure to you, but in a way it keeps you in line because it makes you not want to go back to using drugs or grabbing guns or going out doing dumb things. It keeps you in line. It basically is like, hey, if you mess up, this is what's gonna happen.
Right.
But in a way, it's bad because it's like, man, you get stressed out one day, you might just say, man, you know what, forget it.
You just let it.
Just let it ride out.
Who, like, you've been out for a little while, right? Mm-hmm. So what keeps you in line? Like, who, if anybody, like...
The people I've met as I started working.
Really?
Yeah, they taught me how to grow as a person because I naturally, I still think I'm a kid sometimes because I feel like some of the decisions I make are like something that a kid would do. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Yeah.
And I'm thankful for the people I've met, like your dad, some other people that I worked with, because they taught me how to grow as a man and know that even though we trip and stumble, we can still get back up as long as we still have that opportunity to get back up.
Because you still have, I mean, you can lean on certain people and, like, you can lean on God, too, because God's always there. I mean, that's how it is. So, I mean...
Yeah, that makes sense. So, as you you try to stay out, and any traumatic incidents that happened to you, like being like close to dying, anything that happened that scared you straight almost in some sense of doing anything, being in gangs or doing anything of that sort? Any family losses?
Yeah. Funny story. I almost died in my garage.
Wow.
Yeah, smoking what they call Katie, the fake weed and stuff.
Okay.
My dad had to revive me. My dad gave me CPR, and he brought me back to life because I was dead, dude. And,
right.
And the funny thing about that, right? So they call the police, right? Oh, well, the ambulance to come get me. So they come up and they check my vitals and everything, dude. So I'm okay. So then they're like, we're gonna take you to the hospital. And I'm like, why? But I'm okay. I'm back. I gained my consciousness. I'm breathing. I'm all right. So I get to the hospital, dude. Next thing you know, they locked me up. Mm-hmm. Dude, and they locked me up because of an old warrant that I had already served time for. I had just gotten out for that warrant, but I guess they didn't take it out the system. So they locked me up that day for like 2 hours, dude. Like I was locked up in a...
After the hospital joint.
Yeah. It was kind of a reminder, like, hey, what are you doing? Like, you remember what you went through when you were younger? Like, what are you doing? Like, get back on the straight path.
What? I definitely understand that because, like, I had a brother that lost himself to doing drugs and stuff like that. So it's definitely difficult, and I understand that. That's traumatizing, and that definitely try to keep you in straight, or try to think about what you're going to do towards the future and changing it. Yeah. What type of things do you look forward to in the future as you start your new beginning? What type of hobbies, what type of things is keeping you intact? Because you like you say, you got to deal with the being on the house arrest, doing all that other crazy stuff. So what other things are you going to do positively throughout your, since you're out, you're paid in full, you done did your time, you done did everything you want to do, and now you're out and you're trying to do anything, as a father, you're a father, right?
Yes, sir.
And all that.
Yes, sir.
As like, what do you plan on doing to keep your kids, keep everybody else out? What lessons can you tell, and what do you do to try to stay intact and try to, stay positive throughout the situations you've been through?
Just show them that I understand, and I mean, my father was always just busy working. It wasn't that he was not there or nothing like that.
Yeah, he just worked and provided for the family.
Yeah. So it's like, so when he was working, dude, I was out in the streets. Mm-hmm. So that's why
nobody can tell you nothing, basically.
Yeah. So my plan now as a father and for my new beginning, or basically my future. Well, I plan on, like, I want to have my own company. I want to have my own company. I want to run a legit company, a construction company. It's either roofing or carpentry. I like to work with my hands.
Where did you find this passion throughout all that time of you doing everything? You know what I mean? Like, you know, you being locked up doing time, you being in the gang, you getting out of that, having a kid. Where did you find your passion at of doing, you know, wanting a business at least?
And knowing you for years, he can fix about anything. I'm telling you, this man can take wire to a TV. I don't know how he does it. I've seen him do it before. He can make a TV work. I don't know how he does it. Don't ask me. That's him. That's not me. But he can do about anything. It's crazy. But I mean, continue on.
Yeah, I've actually just since my father was since I saw my father when I was a kid, and my father he was a farmer, and my father provided food and stuff like that. Like went out, got milk, and I always thought that was amazing, dude. How to basically provide for yourself.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
And I got a quick question. These was Mexico days, right? These
Yeah.
was like when you was in Mexico and all that?
Yeah, yeah.
So, man, now I understand what you mean. So you dealing with all that, and then you jump over to the city. You got to go to the grocery store to go buy something. You got to do all that.
Yeah.
You don't see that type of stuff. So you've always been good with your hands. It runs in the line, basically. It runs in the family. So.
Yeah. So, and I want to build something for my son, basically like leave him a company that's basically versatile.
Right.
I want to do a little bit of everything, like carpentry, drywall, even auto mechanics, because I like auto mechanics, dude.
Right.
It's kind of like a puzzle, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
I like solving problems, you know what I'm
Putting
saying?
stuff together.
Without the headache, you know, sometimes I get, without the headache we'll be fine, but
Yeah. You know,
you can't have problems without a headache, so.
Yeah, you know it got to come with it. You know,
That
you
is
gotta come
true.
with
That
it.
is
You
true.
know
Because you
gotta
can't
come
have a
with it.
company without
Yeah, man.
struggles.
So starting a company, starting your family, man, and it's a long process. You gotta be really, really patient. You know what I mean? Because stuff don't come overnight, and I know it got to be tough, man.
I do have a quick question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Do you feel like your kid, having had your kid, do you feel like he gives you like a push, not in a way, but like, do you feel like he, in your head, tells you like, stay out, don't fall into the urge? Maybe I'm not saying like go back into it, but like, does he keep you out of that in a way, like mentally?
Yeah, because I don't want him to think that's cool. I don't want him to think, oh, my dad's doing it. Because I see a lot of men my age that are still doing the same things that we were doing when we were young. And it's like, come on, man. You're
Yeah.
dude, we got gray hair now. We got wrinkles. We can't be doing that no more, man. Come on, man. Act your age.
Yeah, that's facts.
Yeah.
All right, so I got a couple rapid questions. We're about to fire these things off.
All right.
All right. So I don't know if you know anything.
What, with some rapid questions?
Yeah.
No, I gotta think. Of something.
I got a couple.
All
All
right, go
but
ahead.
music. First off, we're gonna start with music. Michael Jackson or Prince? This is a question we ask every single episode. Michael Jackson or Prince? What are you saying? What?
Man, can't go wrong with the King Michael, man.
Yeah,
Come on,
that's
man.
what I say.
There you go.
That's what I'm saying.
He's the king, man.
I mean, I think Prince is great, but I mean, Prince is great. Don't get me wrong. I like Michael's music a little bit better, but Prince, to honestly be able to do what he can do and play that many instruments and be that versatile is great. All right. Do you watch basketball? You watch sports, don't you?
Not really.
All right.
I'm mainly boxing.
All right. So listen. Okay, who's your favorite boxer of all time?
Canelo.
Okay.
Canelo, yeah.
Canelo's a beast.
Yeah.
All right.
Ryan Garcia's coming up there, but
Ryan
The
the Tank
definitely.
Davis is the beast too, though, man.
Davis is definitely.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
All right. So I got this might be a question for you and me. Warriors or Celtics? Who you got?
Didn't I tell you who I had last time?
Yeah, but
Did I
your
say
opinion
Warriors
might.
in 6?
Your,
No, it don't change.
I
I'm
said
on the right
I said
page.
Warriors in 6. I
I
remember
said
saying
Warriors.
that. Maybe we both said Warriors in 6.
I definitely said Warriors in 6. I know.
Yeah, I don't think they're.
I'm
I
on
mean,
pace.
I mean, after this game that they just played with Steph having. I mean, Steph only scored 12 points. He only scored 12 points.
So he didn't need much. I mean, they still won by 10 too on a bad night. So
I know.
So Sylvester, top 3 artists you're listening to right now. No debate. I'm talking about.
Say Future.
You can pretty much listen to him every day, no skips.
You know he's gonna say Future.
3. If you don't got 3, go ahead and give me 2. Give me how many you got.
I got a group that I started listening to, Santa Fe Clan.
Mm-hmm.
I started listening to them. I listened to Kendrick Lamar.
Okay, cool.
What do you think about his new album?
I haven't heard it.
Okay,
I don't know why.
I'm not big on
That's fine,
Kendrick.
that's
I'm
fine.
sorry. I'm just not.
I'm a big Kendrick fan.
I also listen to J. Cole.
Okay,
Really? I thought he was gonna say Future. I thought he was gonna say Future.
I haven't heard J.
I
Cole.
was disappointed. I was disappointed. I thought he was gonna say Future.
He's on my playlist. Don't get me wrong. He's on my playlist.
But is he like a skip sometimes?
Yeah, I skip him sometimes, but I like his beats, man. His beats slap, man.
All right. So with that, we got one more question to wrap it up. Let's you ready? Ready for it? What are you? You like? Which logo do you like better? This logo or the back logo?
I like the back logo.
You do?
Yes, sir.
What about you?
I really like the black and white.
I do too.
I only like it because it's like I can just throw so much with that black and white. I just like it.
Yeah.
This logo is actually very. I think it was very creative with what he did with it. Shout out to DL Switch Customs,
Yep. Shout out to them.
Columbus, Ohio. Been on many phone calls with you in like the past week. We're trying to figure some stuff out, but most definitely go follow us at Heat and Soul Podcast on Instagram, TikTok, Heat and Soulcast on Twitter, and make sure you subscribe to us and turn on post notifications. So with that, I'd like to thank you for coming out and taking time out of your day to come out here and talk to us. I mean, it was very interesting. This definitely changes up. I mean, I know we're not used to having these kind of podcasts, but I feel like it was a different look on our podcast and how diverse we can be.
Yeah, I liked it. Yeah.
So I want to thank you, and we will pray for your family, of course. We'll pray for yours as well. I'd like to thank Brian, BK behind the camera. He does an amazing job. I'd like to thank Leo for coming out, and I'd like to thank my dad behind the camera as well for them being able. We might have some struggles, we might have some ups and downs, but I'd like to thank everybody for helping me. Brian is in school for music, so go follow him on Instagram. I will link his Instagram, and his Instagram is linked in our Instagram bio. So go follow him at bforbes on Instagram. So with that, I mean, that's a wrap. That's a wrap for podcast 4. So thank you guys so much. Kenny, thank you. So that's it.